In our crazy, hyper-connected, always-on world, what if I told you the secret to real, deep inner peace was figured out over 2,500 years ago? Today, we're diving into a teaching that is honestly pretty radical. It all starts with a simple, quiet observation at a monastery, but it unfolds into this incredible guide on how to find stillness in the middle of all the chaos. Every single one of these amazing discourses from the Buddha kicks off with these exact words, evam me suttam, thus have I heard. It's not just a formal opening. It's like someone leaning in and saying, listen, this is a story I'm passing on to you exactly as I heard it from the person who was there. It's an invitation into a living tradition. All right, so picture this. The Buddha is back in his hometown, Kapilavatthu, staying at a monastery. And he's just walking around, taking things in, when he notices something a little out of the ordinary. And that one little observation is what sparks this massive teaching on inner peace. He sees the place is just buzzing with activity. It's way more crowded than usual. And the Buddha, being the Buddha, he doesn't immediately judge it. He just sees it. He observes it. And he turns to his close attendant, Ananda, and basically asks, hey, what's going on? Why are there so many people here? And Ananda gives a totally normal, practical answer. He says, oh, it's robe-making season. All the monks have gathered to work together to make new robes. It's a community thing, a time for collaboration. But the Buddha's response? Well, it's not at all what you'd expect. In fact, it's about to flip our whole idea of community right on its head. Okay, so let's really get into this, because this is where the teaching takes a really sharp turn, and honestly, it's a bit counterintuitive for most of us. What if that love of socializing, that buzz we get from being in a group, that feeling of connection, what if that was actually getting in the way of real, lasting happiness? So he lays out these two completely different paths for the mind. On one side, you've got the mind that just loves company. It delights in being in a group. It thrives on constant interaction. But on the other side, you have the mind that is withdrawn from the group, one that actually cherishes solitude and finds its footing there. And here's the kicker. The Buddha's message is incredibly clear. For someone who finds their joy in company, that deep happiness that comes from renunciation and peace, it's almost impossible to get to. But for the one who dwells apart, that very same happiness is just right there, easily accessible, waiting to be experienced. So, if true happiness isn't found in the crowd, then where is it? Ananda must be wondering the same thing. And this is when the Buddha reveals his own personal secret, the state that he himself lives in, to maintain that unshakable peace. He introduces this crucial term, suññatā, or emptiness. Now, don't think of an empty room or a void. That's not it at all. Instead, think of a vast, clear, open sky. It's not empty of everything, it's empty of clouds, empty of disturbances. It's this profound, quiet, inner spaciousness. And this is just brilliant. He explains that this is his own practice. Even when he's surrounded by kings and ministers and huge crowds of followers, his mind is always inclined towards seclusion. He's right there, totally engaged with them, but his inner world is one of complete stillness. He's in the world, but he's not trapped by it. And here's the thing. This isn't some superpower just for a Buddha. What's so fascinating is that it's laid out as a trainable skill, something anyone can develop. So let's look at how he breaks it down into a practical, step-by-step method for cultivating this inner emptiness for ourselves. The Buddha gives a super clear meditative path. First, you just settle the mind down. You let go of all that worldly chatter. Then you unify it, bringing it to a single, calm point of focus. And it's only from that stable foundation that you can then turn your awareness inward and begin to contemplate emptiness itself. But, and this is a huge but, this internal work can't happen if your daily life is a mess. The Buddha is really clear about this. You can't cultivate inner stillness if your life is filled with external noise. It means you have to make conscious choices, choosing to talk about wisdom instead of gossip, choosing thoughts of kindness over ill will. It's all about aligning your outer world with your inner goals. So this effort to get our lives in order leads to another really interesting twist in the teaching. The Buddha shifts gears and starts talking about the real, human challenges that come up on this path, especially within that tricky relationship between a student and a teacher. He points out these 3 afflictions or spiritual dangers, upadavo, and what's wild is that they're all these subtle, psychological traps that can totally derail you, even if you're super dedicated. And they all come from that same problem we started with, our deep, deep craving for social connection. So the first danger is the teacher's affliction. A teacher finds real peace in solitude, but then people start to follow them, and the teacher gets attached to the praise, attached to the company, and they get kind of drunk on it. They fall right back into the exact worldly trap they were trying to escape. The second danger, the student follows the teacher's example. They go into solitude, they start to find that peace, but then they get their own little following, and they make the same mistake. They fall into the same trap of craving social approval. It just creates this whole cycle with attachment. But it's this third affliction, the Buddha says, that is the most bitter, the one with the most painful result. This is when a student sees a perfect teacher, like the Buddha himself, someone who is totally unattached, and yet the student still chooses to give in to that craving for company. It's like they've been given a perfect map, but decide to walk right off the cliff anyway. And this leads to this really powerful, almost personal plea from the Buddha. He asks his students to approach him and his teaching with a friendly mind, not a hostile one. A hostile mind is always looking for a fight, always ready to argue. But a friendly mind, it's open, it's receptive, it's ready to actually practice for its own long-term good. Then he closes with this absolutely incredible metaphor. He tells Ananda, look, I am not going to treat you like a potter who's super gentle with raw, unfired clay pots, afraid they might break. He's not going to coddle his students. He's not just going to say what they want to hear. So what is he going to do? This right here explains his whole teaching method. He says, I will admonish and point things out again and again. He's going to apply pressure. He's going to test, and he's going to challenge. And why? Because through that process, all the superficial stuff, all the fluff, it just breaks away. And only that which is essential, sound, and true, the real substance, that's what will remain. And suddenly, that ancient metaphor becomes a very pointed, very modern question for every single one of us. Life is always applying pressure, isn't it? It's always testing us. So the question is, what is it in our own lives, in our beliefs, our habits, our relationships, that actually has the genuine substance to withstand that pressure? What is sound enough to remain?